coming down from the higher worlds, from the infinite worlds. On the Kala is referred to as Kala. Kala is from the word Kol Sanafshi, a yearning to higher. And this is basically, Chas and Kala are basically the giver and the receiver, and that's how they meet together, and that's when the Chasana takes place. And it's interesting, we're talking about Chas and Kala, I'll just mention briefly, not to sway away from what we're looking at. They are basically, each one is a soulmate of the other, a half a soul. Plag gufa, half a body. The Zohar says each one is a half. Together they're whole. And they both meet together after thousands of years that they were together in the same limb of Adam Arishan. They were both hanging on the same limb. And then it took years till they were born, mostly born in different families. In Chassidus it even says even more yet. Not only born in different families, in different cities. And then he says comes the middle person, and the middle person brings them to Mishtadl b'chol keichei. He works, he exerts himself with his whole keach, and he brings them together. I have an interesting vart, and then we'll go to the next thing. But the vart is that the question is, why doesn't it say shatchel? It says the middle person. So the answer is because sometimes the word shatchel stands for the abbreviation sheker dever kesef netel. He speaks lies and he takes money. So therefore, the Rebbe Marash, the fourth leader of Chabad, when he writes it in his discourse, he doesn't want to. He writes the word the middle person, and speaking in a very mild way. So basically, these two are a unit. Zo and Malchus are a unit, and Chasna and Kala are a unit, and husband and wife are a unit. And that is why the husband, when the husband does mitzvahs, he exempts his wife from the mitzvahs. She is included in his mitzvahs. So the Arizal says why? The Rebbe quotes it because she's part of his neshama. To the extent, very interesting word, to the extent that there are people that didn't marry yet, so who is exempting them? He says their future husband. Although they're not hearing Kiddush from him yet, but he's already taken care of her mitzvahs. This is a very powerful statement. Okay, so going on now to understand what is the difference between Zo and Malchus in relationship to world. In relationship to world, Zo and Malchus are two different ways of looking at the world. Zo, which is the man, and the attributes, the higher attributes, they look at the world from above to below. When we say somebody is looking at the world from above to below, it's not so much the below that they're really taking consideration. They are taking the consideration of the above. It is the above looking at the below. And therefore the below is considered remote, alien, not really so enclosed in it. Standing from higher and looking down. On the other hand, Ashkifim Amen Kochecha, right? You know, brachas. On the other hand, when it comes to the woman, the Malchus, Malchus is dealing with world. Malchus is elevating world. And Malchus is the source, the attribute of Malchus is the source for time and place. And therefore it represents world. So therefore we have here two coming from two extremes, and they're connecting the godliness from the higher worlds into the lower worlds. And the bridge is the Zo and Malchus and the husband and wife, and Chas and Kala. So this is basically how they become one unit. V'hoyu lebasar echad, they become like one flesh.
How come it says basar, not neshama?
It's even more yet, because neshama they were already before each one and a half.
Why doesn't it say etzem? Why does it say basar, not etzem?
Right.
It's, the word is when you say to etzem, it's also still spiritual. Here we want to bring out how it even touches the flesh, that they become so connected that it's like it's inseparable. From both together, a child is born. Now, what is the difference when we speak? One is focusing on godliness, one is focusing on world. It is also reflected in the way that one is removed from world and one is more involved in world. The Talmud tells us the difference between the husband and the wife is the husband brings home food from the market but it's not really processed yet. It is not edible sometimes yet, unless he brings home fast food. But otherwise it is still needs processing, cooking, whatever it needs. The wife is the one that processes it. She makes sure that it's edible and that a person eats it, it becomes part of that person. Nefe damu basar kipsari, it becomes part of the person. So therefore, when we look at the husband and wife, it is basically the husband is looking from above to below. He's still removed from this physical world. He just brings home food, and he knows that there will be someone that will be processing it. The wife is the one that represents world and represents the physical world in time and place, and everything has to be structured within time and place. A person cannot decide, that he's higher than time. They are actually in a framework of time and place. The same thing is also in regards to the difference between husband and wife. It is also the difference between a man and a woman is the difference between kibush or zichuch. Kibush means conquering. You're conquering something, but you're not refining it. It is just in your territory. It is, as the Talmud tells us in Kiddushin, that the nature of a man is lichbaish. Darke shel zocher is lichbaish, to conquer. The woman is the one that is zichuch. She accomplishes a refinement in it. Because of her delicate features, because of her gifted talents that she has, and as the Rebbe mentions also, very interesting also, inyani neshama, spiritual things that she has, that she can accomplish more in refinement of personality, in refinement of world. And the Rebbe brings a very interesting word. The Rebbe says there's a famous quote, it's mentioned a lot in Chassidus, and actually it's in a medrash. It's in a medrash Parsha Nosei, even before Chassidus came. So but the Alter Rebbe mentions it in Tanya in his phrase. The Almighty desired a dwelling place in this physical world. The medrash, in the phrase of the medrash phrases it like this: Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Almighty desired to live with the lower creations. Loderim Tachtenim. It's in Tanchum Parsha Nosei. Why did he have a desire? We still don't know. The answer is, the Baal HaTanya says, on a desire we don't ask questions. We don't ask questions. He had a desire and that's it. What was his desire? That he wants a dwelling place here. When a person finds himself in a dwelling place, they're not living in a hut, they're not living in a garage, they're living in a house, which means it has to be convenient for them, and it needs to express what they need in their life. And it expresses their essence. The person living in the house reveals himself a lot more than he would reveal himself in public. This is the person's house. That's where his whole essence is revealed. So Chassidus explains, the Jewish woman, since the woman has this idea of refining, this talent of refinement, therefore she is the one that could prepare this world in a refined state. And these are the three commandments that the women were entrusted with, the Jewish women, which is the foundation of the Jewish nation. And this is the one of them is family purity, and then there is one kashrus, the kosher dietary laws, and then there is the Neder Shabbos, the candle lighting, Shabbos candle lighting. And when we look at all of these three, these are affecting the physical world. When it comes to Shabbos candles, it lights up the house. And it adds pleasure in the house. In the code of the Jewish law, it says that the eating by the candlelight contributes to the pleasure of the meal. And it also lights up the house in the sense that a person should not trip or stumble on any stone or wood or whatever should be in the way. When it comes to kashrus, it definitely, today it's already known, a person is what he eats. Whatever a person eats, that's what he is. If we knew it, if we didn't know it from the Ramban and from the Abarbanel and other commentaries in Parsha Shmini that speaks about how vital it is, kosher dietary laws, we know it from today's world that a person is what they eat. Especially today with health, everybody's into health, so no, this you could eat, this you can't eat. Everybody really started to get more serious about what they put in their mouth. And the third thing, family purity, is also something that relates to the well-being in a spiritual sense and in a physical sense of the children that are born. a very interesting talk that the Rebbe gave in 1975. That's when the Rebbe initiated a certain mitzvah campaign called Family Purity. That people, Taras HaMishpacha, that they should open an office and educate people with information about it. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe gives an introduction, the Rebbe says that today we find so many problems, a spiritual sense and a physical sense. And the Rebbe says there's two key reasons for those problems. The Rebbe says we see problems today that are unusual. The Rebbe says one is the kosher dietary laws, that the people are not observing, and that really affects the body of the person, the health of the person, as we have it already in commentaries, as mentioned earlier, the Ramban and the Barbanel, and in their commentaries and also others. And the second thing is family purity, which means basically that the Jewish woman, when they actually get involved in this and they teach others these three mitzvahs, these three commandments, they're not just 3 out of 613, they are the foundation of the Jewish home and the Jewish nation. And this is basically also affecting this physical world. So this is another example how they're affecting the physical world. Now when we get back to the 3 concepts where the women took lead, so there's a very interesting way how the Rebbe phrases these three concepts. They're not just 3 isolated concepts. They are 3 concepts that are like a chain, one leads into the other. First, the Jews received Torah. They received the Torah at Mount Sinai. Torah is something that's higher than nature. It is something that controls nature. The world was created by Torah. The Medrash tells us that the Eibishter Listakel Beiraisa, that's the Zayar, Ubar Alma, the Eibishter looked into Torah and he created the world. The Medrash says that the Torah are the blueprints of the world. So therefore everything is based on Torah. And Torah has the potential to accomplish a change in the world. But since the Almighty desired a dwelling place in this physical world, so we have to relate to the world. We can't remain higher than nature, has to come down the world. So the next thing is the Mishkan. We take physical objects of this physical world and we use it, we utilize it for the building of the Mishkan. There were about 13 to 15 different items that were used for the Mishkan. And they were all elevated in this Mishkan, which became a dwelling place for Hashem. And finally, this is the transition point at which, after that, the Jewish nation was ready to go into Israel, into a settled land, civilized land, and deal with plowing and planting and everything else. Because this is basically the memutza. This is the carryover of all these 3 things. This is through what everything is accomplished. And everything is fulfilled. And the commandments are fulfilled when there are many commandments that we cannot fulfill when we're outside of Israel. This is basically when they were able to fulfill all the commandments.